Hey, so you've done it. You've made the time. You're so excited. You have your cup of tea, or maybe your coffee, or maybe your wine, whatever it is that you do right before you sit down to write your book. And you open that document and you put your hands to the keyboard and nothing. You can't think of anything to write. You don't know what to do. You just feel paralyzed. So instead, you scroll over and you open a tab and you start doing research, or you go onto social media or TikTok or whatever it is that you do when you just can't get the words on paper. What you are experiencing right now is called writer's block. And today's video is going to talk about 5 tips that I have done to help me overcome my writer's block, and hopefully will help you overcome that writer's block. Hi, my name is Deidre, and this is Wordy Witch Writes. If you are new to my channel, we are following my journey of becoming a full-time author by the fall of 2026. I have a couple videos where I talk about that in depth. You can check those out if you want more information. Today's video is actually a requested video from one of my students in my day job where I am a teacher. She is struggling with writer's block and asked me for some advice on how to overcome it. So this is for her. I have 5 tips for you. These are the things that I have done in the past that have actually worked for me. I've read a lot of books on writer's block. I've read a lot of books. I've read a lot of blog posts. I've watched some YouTube videos, and these are the things that I've weeded out that have worked for me. They may work for you. I hope they work for you. And you can start using them as soon as tomorrow if you need to. Okay, so let's get right into it. Tip number 1, get over yourself. And I don't mean that in like you're full of yourself sort of way. I mean like you need to get out of your head and stop worrying about whether or not your novel is perfect from the get-go. The first draft is never going to be good. The second draft is probably not going to be good. It might take several rewrites, but you can't do the rewrites. You can't make it perfect if you don't write anything. So I found that oftentimes when I'm unable to write, it's because I'm worried that what I do want to write is not going to be good enough. So once you get over yourself or get out of your own way or whatever phrase you want to use, you are going to be able to start writing. So just that's a mindset thing. You have to start actively thinking about how you don't need this to be perfect. You just need to get it on paper. That's my first tip. My second tip is to establish a consistent writing routine or schedule. So for me, it took me a long time to figure out that I write best early in the morning, like right after I get up. So on every day of the week when I want to write, I get up, I take care of my dogs, I feed them, I get a cup of coffee, I have a glass of water, and then I come to my desk and I sit down and I just write. I open my document, I don't check my email, I don't do anything, I just sit down at my desk and I write. That's what works best for me. I know some other people who write better at night. They're night owls. So once they've done everything that they need to do on their to-do list, they're able to sit down and write for hours or a couple of hours or whatever it is that they need to do. It's going to take time to figure out what your writing routine is, but if you are consistently sitting down and struggling to write at that time period, that just might not be a good time for you to write. So you might have to readjust your schedule. I know for some people that might be a challenge because you have work or you have school and certain things are mandated. So this tip you might be telling me like, that's not going to work for me. Maybe it won't. Maybe one of my other tips will help you get into the right mindset. Tip number 1 might be another reason you're sitting down at this time, maybe right after school, and you've already had all these things where you have to be perfect all day, and then all of a sudden you want to like be perfect in your writing and you can't be. So that's my second, is establishing some sort of routine. And maybe you don't have a consistent schedule, so something you can do, I have another tip for that might activate a routine for you. Okay, tip number 3 is having a plan for your book. So I used to be a pantser where I had an idea and I would sit down and I would just see where the story took me. And I wrote my first 3 books like that and it worked okay. I was stuck at home a lot because it was COVID time. So that was fine for me at that time. But now that I'm like full-time teaching again, having a really busy schedule, it is much easier for me to have this plan. It does take a little bit longer to start the writing process because you really have to think about it. But when I come home, if I didn't get to write that morning, or if I get up in the morning and I'm kind of groggy and I don't remember what I'm supposed to do, I just have to look at my plan and I'm like, oh yeah, that's where I'm going, and that's the scene that I work towards, or that's the scene that I start. So having a plan gives me a place to go or a direction to go. It's kind of like when you go on a road trip. If you don't have a destination, you don't know how you're going to get there, it's going to be really hard to go. And some people like taking road trips like that. I'm not one of those people. But having a plan makes it easier to know where you're going. Okay, tip number 4 is if you're stuck on a scene and you don't know what to do and you're just staring at a blank place, skip to the next part of the book that makes the most sense. Make a note for you. You can leave a comment in the text. You can write a detailed little note that's like, I don't know what to do here, come back, and just skip to the next scene that you do know where the next thing is going to be happening. This will help you continue writing and continuing making progress, and you can always, that's what writing is, it's going back and revising most of the time. And then number 5 goes along with a little bit of number 2, which is establishing that routine or consistent schedule. Sometimes people don't have a consistent schedule. Maybe you work a lot of different shifts at your job, and sometimes you're working in the morning, sometimes you're working in the evening, sometimes it's the middle of the day, sometimes you have the kids, sometimes you don't, things like that. So what you can do is do what is, I've heard as set activated routines. So you have some sort of like a candle or a perfume or something that you put on that activates these scents. This is something that a study habit that we tell some students to when they're studying, especially for like a big exam such as the SAT, to chew gum or suck on a mint or something while you're studying the information. There's something that will activate in your brain. I'm not going to say that this is scientifically studied because I don't know if that's true or not. I don't have any studies to give to you, but it is something that I've used in the past where you light. So like for my writing, when I struggle, I light this candle. It's called Motivate and Focus. It smells really good. Eucalyptus is the scent, and it activates, just like it establishes like, oh, I'm in my writing zone, and it just like helps me get started. So that's something you can do, is to go and find a candle. I follow an author on YouTube, and she has a different perfume for every book she writes. So when she puts that perfume on, it kind of like activates like she's back in that story world. So whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's chew gum, only drink a certain type of tea while you're writing, lighting a candle, incense, anything like that, that will get you into the mindset of writing your book. That is something else that can help you with your writing. So those are my 5 tips for overcoming your writer's block. A lot of it is establishing a routine. It takes time. I think also just like a little bonus tip is that if you're sitting down and you're feeling very overwhelmed, I think just kind of pushing yourself through it. You need to decide if you're in the right mind space to push yourself through it, or if you do need to give yourself a break. If you're going on your 7th day in a row of needing a break, I think you need to re-examine your story and figure out why you don't want to write it anymore. Maybe you're at a scene that you're just not mentally capable of writing at that point, or maybe you know deep down that your story isn't making sense and you need to rework it. There is no magic cure where you take a little pill and oh look, all the words are flowing. It is something that you have to, it's a craft, it's a skill. It's like working out. You're not going to be able to go and run 3 miles without starting with just a walk. You have to start at the basics and then work your way up to building up those skills. So hopefully those 5 tips can help you with your writer's block. And if you have a requested video, please drop it in the comments and I will try to make it for the next week. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in. I hope you hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you guys later.